In order, and second of all, I'd like to call a couple of my board members for being out of order. But we'll deal with them after the meeting and stuff, so. This is a meeting of the Metropolitan Area Planning Agency Board of Directors. Excuse me, it'll be conducted in compliance with the Nebraska statutes of the Open Meeting Act. For reference, the Opening Meetings Act is posted on the wall of the boardroom. We'll move right on to agenda item A, which is the roll call. Liz?
Mayor John Ewing. Jacqueline Morrison. Commissioner Mike Friend.
Here.
Mayor Rusty Height. Mayor Doug Kendick.
Here.
Commissioner David Klug.
Here.
Councilmember Don Rowe.
Here.
Supervisor Brian Shea. Mayor Jill Shudak.
Here.
Mayor Angie Winquist. Here.
And could I have a motion for approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second. Who said second? Rowe?
Winquist.
Winquist, okay, we both did.
If there's no further questions or comments on that, Liz, you want to take a vote?
Morrison? Yes. Friend?
Yes.
Klug?
Yes.
Rowe?
Yes.
Shudak?
Yes.
Winquist? Yes. Kendick?
Yes. Agenda item C, I would need a motion for approval of the board minutes from the February 26th meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay.
Any further questions or discussions on that? If not, Liz?
Morrison? Abstain. Friend?
Yes.
Klug?
Yes.
Rowe?
Yes.
Shudak?
Yes.
Winquist? Yes. Kendick?
Yes. Agenda item D, our agents reports. We'll start with Mike.
Sure. Want to get that pulled up. So a few things to update you on here. Just need you click in it, actually. Excellent. Okay, yep, now I'm in. Well, actually, could you try it one more time? Oh, I felt the control there for a second. There we go. All right. Just a couple of updates from the past month. One, we held our Council of Officials meeting, the quarterly meeting over in Council Bluffs, Iowa, at the Iowa Western Community College Art Center, which is a great venue. I'm surprised we hadn't been there before for Council of Officials. And we had a panel that was really focused on, kind of energy, the changing landscape around energy, both electrical and gas, and really kind of how local officials really are in a position to shape that and have been for a long time. So we had OPPD from the Nebraska side, we had Black Hills Energy, who serves customers on both sides of the river, and we had Iowa State University Extension, who's hosting a program called RSTEP, which is focused on really kind of aligning and providing resources to local officials across the state in this realm of energy policy, wind, solar, battery storage, and really just trying to be a resource for that negotiation process and trying to get away from really the polarization we've seen in a lot of conversations about, well, we can't really do anything, we just kind of have to let it happen, to moratoriums, and really supporting that decision making along that spectrum of where kind of communities get what they want, but there's also an opportunity to continue providing generation in all our jurisdictions. So really good event. Iowa State stayed around at the end and hosted a workshop with about probably 12 people, or 12, 15 people, really to kind of dig deeper into that RSTEP process, and more to come. It's a 3-year grant. I think there's going to be a lot of information, and it sounds like NACO on the Iowa side, ISAC on the Iowa side is getting more involved in this space too. So I think there's going to be a lot of continued conversation as well. A couple of awards to just draw attention to, MAPA, we talk a lot about our mapping and our GIS, but MAPA was notified that we received a special achievement in GIS from Esri. And so the team, one of the travel authorizations that's on the consent agenda down here is for that team to travel to the Esri user conference to be recognized. A lot of organizations get recognized, and this is the first time that MAP is received. So it's exciting to have that, and it's for some of our open data stuff that we do through a project called GoHub, which is exciting. And then also at the planning conference here in Nebraska, transportation award for the La Vista Active Mobility Plan. So a project that we did in partnership with the city of La Vista through our Heartland 2050 mini grant program, getting some recognition. So kudos to the team for both those projects, because it's really it's exciting to see that recognition and really kind of the affirmation of the work externally as well. On the legislative updates, I mean, you're all obviously watching the State House closely. A lot of things impacting local government. I didn't really kind of reiterate those here. I think you're all aware of some of those broader conversations, but a few things that we're watching. One, the economic development funding on both sides of the river in earlier forms of the budget had been zeroed out. That's $700,000 total for the Nebraska development districts and $350,000 that was on the Iowa side for the councils of governments. And these are non-federal dollars that we use to really kind of supplement the dues that we get from our county participants. And so on the Nebraska side, we've survived the rounds of, we came out as part of the recommendations from the Appropriations Committee. There's still 11 days or 10 days left for crazy stuff to happen, but we've survived it so far. On the Iowa side, we're kind of still there in it. We're not in the agency, we're not in the governor's recommended budget, but a lot of support in the House and Senate. So we're watching those closely. Carlos actually testified for us on LB 1126, which is advancing to be approved here this legislative session. This is kind of innovative transportation project delivery. Some of it focused on the rural, but also an opportunity with additional funding that may come up in future legislative sessions to really steer towards projects in our metro area. And I think just a good set of tools for the state to have and something that our communities can benefit from. I did testify at the Economic Development Subcommittee in Iowa back on March 5th, just talking about the COGS, what do we do, how do we work on that, and had some meetings with members as well. And then in the property tax bill, and earlier, I didn't update this, but like on Tuesday, we were in the bill. After Tuesday, we're not in the bill anymore. But there was the earlier property tax bill actually called out section 28H, which is where chapter 28 is the Interlocal Cooperation Act, and H section is about councils of government. As an opportunity for some of these efficiency improvements around, local government in general, shared services, things like that. And they reference that councils of government could play a role in that. That section, I think in part to harmonize the House and the Senate bills has been removed, but that I think all of you recognize that we kind of already are doing that in many ways. And so, there were a lot of questions about what that meant, but it's not there anymore. And then this indirect cost bill that continues to not quite die, but doesn't seem to be advancing, it really conflates in a lot of ways indirect costs with administration. And there's a lot of concerns in organizations like ours that largely grant funded. We have these administrative contracts with the state, and really we have federally approved indirect cost rates, whether those would be applicable to things that have Iowa state funds in them. And so it doesn't seem like it's advancing, but we are watching it very closely. And on the Nebraska side, we've been meeting bi-weekly through the session to just monitor everything happening over in Lincoln. You're following federal housing policy. Two kind of major bills have been passed, both in the House and the Senate. They don't say the same thing, but one of them is Congressman Flood's bill that we've been watching closely and are supportive of. And it sounds like there will be a conference committee, which I don't even know the last time there's been a conference committee in Congress at the federal level to actually pass legislation and then go and hammer out what the details of the bill that will be passed by both houses will be. And so housing has risen to that. So we're really appreciative of Congressman Flood's leadership on this issue, something we've been watching really closely. And I think, many of the provisions that we've heard him support around, both new construction of housing, some tweaks to federal programs, but overall just continued support for many of the frameworks that our communities use, that MAPA uses in support of our members, are all part of these bills. And then some really tweaks to hopefully get some of the barriers out of the way to really get more housing produced and using the federal tools to the maximum benefit. And then MAPA in the news, there were a couple of other articles just about things that we're deeply involved in, like the interchange and other things. But I wanted to call special attention to this article from KETV related to the trail planning work in Pottawatomie County, and in particular, this quote from Jeff Franco, who new county conservation. I don't know if he's really new anymore. I guess it's been 2 or 3 years, but he feels new. But just a great call out of the MAPA team's work, really in support of both kind of the funding award, but then just that partnership with county conservation and trails groups in Pottawatomie County to continue the work of chipping away on these trail projects and the expansion across the county, and really the implementation of the Great American Rail Trail, which 2 years ago was the theme of our annual dinner, and did some workshops in Pottawatomie County in support of this work. And so I think just a great kind of continued affirmation of some of the work that we've been doing. I'm going to draw your attention here as well to opportunity zones. We talked a little bit about this at the last meeting. I know Mayor Shudak and her team have been involved, and obviously the city of Omaha as well, been having a lot of conversations. The governors will need to, by June 30th, submit their nominations for opportunity zones. And MAPA has been having conversations with the eligible communities on both sides of the river, just about coordinating that process, kind of speaking with one voice about that opportunity. And it looks like NDED actually announced some webinars earlier this week about kind of that process, what they're looking for and how to facilitate that. We haven't gotten that guidance on the Iowa side yet, but we're really just trying to work to understand what those priorities look like. On one hand, opportunity zones are really provide tax benefits to investors, kind of give you some benefits around capital gains and investing them in real estate in these distressed areas. But on the other hand, the administration's really signaled that these will be priorities in upcoming discretionary grants across many programs, whether it's EDA and HUD and EPA, USDOT. And so from our context, we're really just trying to make sure we're thoughtful about where these areas are. If we do have federal priorities, if it is an eligible area, we should consider that there are those opportunities and really work to make sure that our communities can continue competing to the maximum extent. But you can see here, each governor has kind of a different pool to pull from. In Nebraska, there will be up to 28. In Iowa, there will be 43. And then that gold map, I didn't bring out the call out map, but there's, I think, 56 eligible census tracts just within the MAPA area. And then on item B here, we're happy to recognize that Matt Aish is actually celebrating his 5 years with MAPA. And so Matt actually joined us, really in what I would say was a very rapid staff transition, which are never good. And it was a very exigent circumstances. And quite honestly, members of the board who were here at that time recognized, that we were in a very precarious financial situation. We were in the middle of COVID. Our reimbursements had slowed. Our cash flow was really not in the place that it is today. And Matt came in, and it is a testament both to him personally and his professional sort of training. But yet he was built for it in some ways. His career is built around it, but pulled us back from that brink, but also has really allowed us to kind of grow and find opportunities to make our internal operations more efficient. I think you've seen probably a change if you've been here long enough about how we present the budget. And how we're able to really try to make the board as much as possible really in control of some of these key decisions along the way. And so really kudos to Matt and his leadership of his team. You hear us sing the praises of this team over and over, but really Matt's leadership is a key part of that. So thank you, Matt, for your 5 years of service to MAPA. And if you want to say anything, you're welcome to.
It's been an adventure, I think, but never the same job on any given day. And so I actually appreciate it makes it fun. This kind of job can get boring. My job here is no.
Yeah.
So does it seem like you've been here 10 years or just yesterday?
Yeah. More like
You don't have to answer that.
Sorry. Yeah, it really has. It's like I said, it's rare that I look up at the clock and say, "Oh, I've got 2 more hours," unless I'm hungry. Which then the clock can't strike 5:30 fast enough. So.
Well, I can follow up Mike's comments. I have been around. God, I'm looking at the board. Maybe I was the only one around 5 years ago. And we were going through not just COVID and everything, but we were making a change from our finance officer, which is never easy to do. And not only have you helped bring some stability and some long-range forecasting on the numbers, you've helped change the culture. And as a board, we're appreciative of that. So thank you.
Okay. And now we actually have a staff update from Court Barber on trips, which will be a project you're going to be hearing a lot about from us.
Yeah, and that's honestly so much.
Sorry, I didn't see you walking up, Carlos.
I didn't either.
Some of the work program that you'll see later on the agenda. Court is going to take some time to explain what this trips is all about, and you'll be hearing a lot about trips from either staff or other people out the region. Court is going to lead us through this wonderful, magical project, and he's going to try to explain all of it in 5 minutes.
Thanks, Carlos. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, so TRIPS, the Transformative Regional Investment Prioritization System. When we're talking about a system, when we're talking about developing process, and ultimately a tool that will help us set priorities, assess projects, and then ultimately connect those projects to funding. So the reason why we're doing this is that there's, I've been working on kind of project selection for the region for federal funding that we manage for going on 10 years, and a little over 10 years now. And we still see, some delays in the process. There's also, kind of communicating the complexities of federal funding is a challenge, especially when trying to understand priorities of all of your different jurisdictions, and, the best way to get your projects connected to the federal aid that's out there. And then just generally, there's a lack of what we see as shovel-ready projects, things that we can very easily connect to discretionary opportunities at the federal level, things that we've kind of gotten through the design phase and through MAPA, and getting those ready to move on into actually being constructed, kind of increase our competitiveness of the projects. Because they're good projects, it should showcase them and making sure that they're ready to go with funding. So overall, what we're trying to do with this is improve regional competitiveness, speed up project delivery, make better use of data in decision making, and then also increase the transparency of our project selection process, kind of improve, and kind of strengthen public trust and confidence in local government. So I'm going to go with you back just a second. So down here at the bottom, you see like we've got this. I don't know if I can put that down here. We start off with this long range plan, and then we move into kind of setting our priorities and doing project selection, which ultimately leads to a list of projects that are funded with regional federal aid, in addition to things that the state DOTs put. And what we're talking about doing with TRIPS is changing the way that works, kind of switching out two of the pieces to better align the project selection with regional goals. So the way we want this all to be set up is we start off with establishing those regional goals, part of kind of preliminary development of our metropolitan transportation plans, kind of like the Urban 2050 style effort, where we're talking about, what's the vision for the region? And then that would move into project prioritization, which would be the first part of what we're talking about that TRIPS would do for us. It would help us identify the projects that would align with those regional goals, and then ultimately those would be included in the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. And then we would take this list of projects that basically we've already vetted, we're pretty sure that, this is what aligns with the regional goals, and then those would be linked up with the appropriate federal funding source in TRIPS. So basically it's a way to kind of show like, this is everything that we want to do, but we can't make all of it happen, but then how do we get all of those things that we can connect to as much federal funding as possible? That's kind of the purpose of the system. It helps us evaluate the projects. It also helps us evaluate what the federal funding is that's available. So the outlook for all of this is this year, we're going to be looking at kind of the background. So we're going to be talking with all of you staff from all of your jurisdictions to see how are, at the local level, not at the regional level, how is that the prioritization being done internally right now? How do we align with that sort of thing? And then we'll get into developing the regional prioritization process next year. Ultimately, that will lead into development of this software tool that will be TRIPS in 2028, and then we'll implement that as part of the development of the next Metropolitan Transportation Plan in 2029 and 2030. So it's going to be a little bit before we actually cross the finish line. But without doing all of this work to inform the system, it's not going to be worth it. So it's going to take a little bit, but we'll get there. So right now, what we're doing is kind of this background analysis, where we want to reach out and talk to all of the local jurisdictions and find out, how does this fit, and how can TRIPS best contribute to your internal processes. So we don't just see this as a tool for MAPA to use in regional prioritization, but talking to the jurisdictions, we want to find out how can you use this internally as well. So this is a conversation we want to have with members of your public works and planning staff to find out, you know, like, if y'all can plug into this and make use of this system, you know, find out if, depending on what your priorities are, does a certain project kind of align with that? And if, are you gonna see benefit out of expending public funds on? So what we're very interested in is if, any of you would be interested in kind of participating in those conversations, let us know. So far, we've had some preliminary conversations with, Darby County as well as City of Bellevue. And we'll be having more of those conversations to go along, but if you're interested in this and, you know, you want to kind of stay in the loop, talk to your planning and public works staff, see if they already kind of know about this. We've been talking about it at our technical advisory committee as well as the regional planning advisory committee, so they're already kind of familiar, but we haven't reached out to everybody yet. So, you know, I guess if you're interested in staying involved, talk to your staff and then hit us up too. But that's what I got. Do you have questions about this?
Anything for court? If not, thank you. More to come, I'm sure.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item E is public comments. Liz, did we have any requests?
No.
And not seeing any public in the audience, I'll move on to agenda item F, which is the consent agenda. I will take all of these in one motion unless you ask that one or two be pulled.
Second.
Is there any further discussion or questions? If not, Liz?
Morrison? Yes. Brent?
Yes.
Clue?
Yes.
Rowe?
Yes.
Hudak?
Yes.
Winquist? Yes. Kennedy?
Yes. Agenda item H is new business item number 1, or new contracts and agreement. Carlos, and do you want to go ahead and just cover all 3 of them? And again, we'll give the option to the board to pull one off if need be.
Perfect. All right. Number 8 here is resolution 2026 for the FHU Bennington Trail and Park Plan. This was originally approved by this board last month. It's just a simple cleanup item. We forgot to put a resolution. This is just that resolution for authority of signature. B is for a new contract with Olson. We are doing traffic counts throughout the region for $41,359.25. Olson is part of our on-call planning contract. So this is a task order for Olson to conduct these counts before July, before the kids are out of school. Next up is the City of Bellevue 5310 contract. This is to enable FTA 5310 senior and disabled paratransit service within the bounds of the City of Bellevue for $139,781. And I'm here to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments for Carlos? If not, would I have a motion to approve?
So
Second, Hudak.
And if there's no further questions or discussion, Jill?
Morrison? Yes. Brent?
yes.
Clue?
Yes.
Rowe?
Yes.
Hudak?
Yes.
Winquist? Yes. Kennedy?
Yes. Agenda item, or item number 2 are our purchases, and again, we'll take both of these under the same motion. Carlos?
Excellent. We've been using this company called Social Pinpoint to run engagement and public information opportunities for the RPA, Safe Streets for All project. We are realizing that we need more than a year on that contract. So the first one is for an extension of that for another year for $5,400. The next one, as we approved the rate plan a couple months ago, we're trying to do additional engagement and engage the public on that freight plan. And we would like to use this Social Pinpoint as the software as a service for another $5,400 for another 1-year contract.
Questions or discussion for Carlos?
Motion to approve.
Can I have a second?
Second, Hudak.
If there's no further discussion or questions, Jill?
Morrison? Yes. Brent?
Yes.
Clue?
Yes.
Rowe?
Yes.
Hudak?
Yes.
Winquist? Yes.
2027 draft work program. Carlos, you want to lead it
I'll,
off?
I'll start it off and talk through this. This is our federally required program for our transportation planning and programming. This covers the transportation planning activities, which is about 80% of the total budget for the agency. You'll hear some terms with regards to metropolitan PL planning dollars and FTA 5305D funds. Those are the main federal revenue sources coming into the agency. This is an annual report that we have to do to meet federal requirements and obtain access to the funds, simply put. This draft is then provided to our state and federal partners. I'll talk through our quick priorities for the year. This upcoming year, as you heard Corey mention, we're going to be focusing a lot on trips as one of our primary work products. We're also working on our freight plan, looking at regional freight throughout the region, continuing our work and support of Vision Zero and safety projects throughout the region, and complete streets. Not to forget the North Omaha Reconnecting Communities is also coming along, and continuing our work with our data and big data. And I think Mike is going to take this on.
So at each of your spaces, we have the budget table for the UPWP, and as we go through the budget, you're gonna see this over and over again. And so I'll orient you. So I have these slides here just to kind of break the page into different sections, just so you kind of know what you're looking at. Across the top here and across the top of your page are the federal funding sources related to our transportation planning activities. This is mainly a required format that we need to show this into our state and federal partners to kind of break out the different sources and uses of funding. But you see across the top there in that category about $5.9 million worth of total transportation funding for the purposes of this program. At the bottom of the page, we actually have the local sources of funding, and this is a variety of different sources from the local match contributions that we get for individual projects. So that would be like the Bennington project. Bennington pays the local share of that project, in addition to MAPA dues and our tip fees, which are the kind of local non-federal sources of match that we use to match these federal funds above the line. And then also things that we do along the lines of like soft match or third-party match around our aerial photography project. We talked about this before. We do this joint purchase, and because it is so integral to the regional planning that we do and the local planning that feeds into that process, we're able to show that the payments that MAPA makes on behalf of our member communities as part of that regional orthophotography, the aerial photography purchase, we can use those and say $1 spent on that lets us spend $4 of federal funding. And so we try to be very efficient and conscientious of it. That project has a lot of benefits in other ways, but it also is really directly applicable to this program and what allows us to not use so many other sources of funding. Carlos, you want to go to the next slide? And then right in the middle is the uses of those funds. So it's two categories. We have MAPA activities and we have contracts and subrecipients. We talk about above and below the line. And above the line is really those internal costs. So that's the staffing costs, salary benefits, and other activities. The software subscriptions that Carlos just highlighted are a good example of that, indirect costs, payroll additive, all those things that really are the MAPA team's kind of share and other direct costs related to those activities. And then contracts and subrecipients are really the money that we are passing through either to consultants, to members, or as part of subrecipient agreements. And one of those things is that aerial photography. You see that is really paid by our members, passes through MAPA, and is really kind of allows us to capture that match in here. So Carlos, if you go to the next slide, just a really kind of quick navigation of all of these numbers here. As I mentioned, about 5.9 million in total federal funding. 2.9 of that is new funding for FY 2027. We've talked a lot about transportation reauthorization. The infrastructure bill on one hand is very popular. Within Congress, a lot of priority put on it. And we've heard a lot of support for the metropolitan planning funding, which is kind of a core tenet of our funding on an annual basis to do this work. And then we have about an equal amount of money, $3 million in carryover funding. This is really a variety of things, awards that we received in this year and are executing in the following year, in addition to, funds that have been available to us and we're actually going to be able to execute on. The CMAQ funding is a good example of that. The $1.5 million in matching funds is broken across those categories that you see, and you can see how they're applied in that gray area at the bottom of the page. But in general, you can see really the diversity of funding that we use. Those $72,000 of in-kind match, that is where, as part of an agreement with a subrecipient like Sarpy County or Pottawatomie County, Douglas County, where the required match is 20%, we ask for 30%, and that difference we're able to capture as additional match, again, to allow us to really actually use our resources efficiently. And those are staff costs, other costs at the local level that we're able to leverage then. We have match from partners. Those are those kind of direct one-to-one relationship with a particular project. The cash match is those tip fees, which we budget for around $180,000 a year, in addition to kind of other dues and non-federal dollars that MAPA has to apply to our transportation program. And then that $241 million, or $240,000, if only. Can we add more zeros, Carlos? Does that make it real? $241,000 of NIROC aerial photography costs that we can say are happening within the MPO area and are directly applicable to this. And that's really a forecast for the flights are happening now. It's the deliverables that we will receive after July 1. And so it's a little bit of, strange accounting, but it is one of those things that we do really to find the efficiencies to kind of leverage everything that we're seeing around the region and really make good on some of those investments that you're already making as member communities. You see the breakdown there on the right-hand side of that total budget. You see that number really drilled down there in the bottom right-hand corner. That really that internal number broken across those direct labor, fringe, indirect and direct non-labor costs, that budget of that $3.8 million for the contracts and subrecipients for a total UPWP budget of just over $6.8 million for the upcoming year. And then Carlos, do you want to talk a little bit about the MAPA activities and how we break these down?
Yeah, we've taken the liberty of breaking these down from a long list of 12 to 4 core work products that staff and everyone here at MAPA are using. One is project management and administration. This covers some of the travel that we consistently do to go to legislative bodies or go to MDOT headquarters or Iowa DOT headquarters to find out more about what's going on with programs and projects throughout the region. Then we have regional transportation planning. That's kind of our short range planning where we look at and work through local communities on short range plans, etc. TIP, that's our yearly work program that we have to do for federal projects and more of our long-term bucket of projects. Trips, it's accounted for in here. And then complete streets. This is kind of more of a potpourri, but it's looking at walking, biking, and transit and work associated with developing, enhancing complete streets throughout the region. So the total amount for all of our activities is somewhere around 2.9 million. This represents an 85% share from the federal government.
And so what I would note on that too, that 85% comes from a couple of things. One, it comes from, those sources of local non-federal match that we have. But across the top here in that federal funding category, you can see that those numbers 100 to 0, 80, 20, those are the required match for each of those programs. The reason that we focus on kind of that potpourri, as Carlos alluded to, for complete streets is that we can get reimbursed for 100% of those costs as opposed to 80-20. And we are really working very hard with NDOT in particular to include as many of our activities as we can in that, because it's, again, another way that we can do our work and really leverage the flexibility that has been provided to us. It's just not, it's one of those like Rorschach tests of what's complete streets. Well, we have to really work with our state partners to make sure we're doing that efficiently. But the baseline eligibility, or the baseline, I should say, match is 20%, so 80-20, and you can see our federal share across these programs is actually above that because of that 100% share that we get on those complete streets activities.
And this is our laundry list of contracts and projects we're going to work through. Don't need to over-explain too many of these things, but you'll see the freight plan. One of the bigger ticket items is the Heartland 2050 mini grants. Every year we do a call for projects. these are the mini grants that lead to La Vista Active Mobility Plan. And for the coming year, we're looking at having Papillion do an active mobility plan, the city of Omaha doing a study on the Beltline, and several others that are regionally significant. I think one of those that does come up with regards to safety is developing an e-moto policy. And I think you've seen some of this information on the news and some grumblings within bicycle and advocacy groups that they want to understand and how to deal with these new classified e-motos that are not electric bicycles and they're not really scooters or anything like that. So we're looking at it and funding that for the regional of that. Overall, we're looking at 3.8 million in contracts for the coming year. I think, to be perfectly honest, I think this is going to be a little bit higher than what comes in the final, but we'd like to aim high in the draft and then work our way down to a more realistic number.
So one more slide. Nope.
Okay, that's that.
Yeah, then it's the thing that you have in front of you. So, I think I would just highlight, this is, relatively similar to past budgets, just like in terms of where we are. I would note, the sources of 100% funding that we're able to make use of this year are both those kind of complete streets categories, in addition to those trips dollars. So that was a $2 million award from USDOT. It was a competitive program that we're fortunate to receive. And really, it is a direct mirror of our normal planning funding, but it does give us that 100% cost share that allows us to really accelerate some of this critical work that Carlos in court highlighted about really meeting you guys where you are and then trying to figure out, okay, how do we make as much of this competitive as we can?
Any questions for Mike, Carlos?
And I should note, with your approval today, this draft would be submitted to our state and federal partners. We'd be coming back in May with the final, along with our final budgets for submission before June 1, which is the final deadline for our work program.
Yeah, and we're opening the comment.
In the public comment period, yes, that's in the resolution.
If not, would I have a motion?
So moved.
And if there's no further discussion or questions, Liz?
Morrison. Yes. Friend.
Yes.
Clue.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Shida.
Yes.
Lindquist. Yes. Kennedy.
Yes. But, it's listed number 3 on mine. I'm assuming that should be number 4.
Oh, yes.
We'll bump it, but just for the record, we're gonna go ahead and, I would take a motion so that we can go into executive session, to discuss the executive director's performance review. Liz?
Morrison. Yes. Friend.
Yes.
Clue.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Shida. Yes. Lindquist. Yes. Kennedy.
Yes.
Here you guys pass. Whatever, we're gonna.
You'll have to state what you're recommending.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're back into the regular meeting on the executive director's compensation. Can I have a motion which would be to approve the recommendation of the board to include a 2.8 cost of living increase for the 2027 budget and immediately a one-time merit pay increase or pay of $6,000, which is not an annual, would be a one-time payout. Would I have a motion and a second?
I would, can we amend that, it might not be a one-time, but a total of 6, so if he wants to change it for tax purposes?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, thank you.
All right,
No.
so I'll make that motion.
Is there any other discussion?
Did you, need to include the ability to utilize $5,000?
That'll come back at budget.
Got it.
Yeah. That'll come back at budget, so. If not, take a vote, Liz.
Morrison,
Yes.
Brent,
Yes.
Klug,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Hudak,
Yes.
Winquist. Yes. Kidvik.
Yes, so again, Angie, Steve, thanks. Steve spent the afternoon here. This probably went as well as it has for a while too, so. With that, everybody be safe and what? I'm done. Please all say A if you agree.
Aye.
Thank you.